Morning, guys. Mark Ferrasci, Protect Dog Training. Heading out and about. I'm going to do some bite work today with Bruno. Taking Buddy with me. He's been going pretty regular too. Get him out of the kennel and get him worked. Hate to see a good dog go to waste. The dog's a hell of a dog. Anybody interested in a Dutch Shepherd that kicks ass and takes names, give me a call. He definitely does a good job. Excellent dog. He's about 4.5, 5 years old now, but he's a hell of a dog. All right, so the reason I'm doing this little yak session and what I thought of when I started it up was to ask the all-consuming question: why do you get a dog? Why do you want a dog? Why do you want a certain dog, a certain breed, etc.? Right? And then to let you know my mental attitude when I take in a customer and I take in a dog. And we'll give an example of Benzo. Right? Benzo was at home with a family that loves him and everything, but they're just taking a Malinois that's been bred to work. That's why I mentioned what breed of dog is, because it's all a factor of why you choose a certain dog and what you expect, your expectations. So as professionals, and you see these reels all the time trying to tell you that the energy level of a Malinois is very high. And it's not just his physical mental energy, it's his mental energy. That's why people run into trouble, because they don't know how to take that energy and put it into things and condition the dog in the right way so that you don't have problems. You know, all the digging and the barking, all that stuff comes from neurotic behaviors based on lack of doing something with the dog, right? You give the dog exercise, you give him something to do. You heard the old saying of give a dog a job, right? There's a reason we say that, because when we see the dog have a job to do, we see the dog be mentally fulfilled, and we know that that's the answer in taking all that energy and putting it someplace, right? So back to Benzo, he didn't have that, so he was out in the backyard and he just found his own things to get into, which was that neurotic behavior of shadow chasing and light chasing. And the customer, you know, it's dirt in their mind, and it is kind of dirt related. It's probably the bugs that were in the dirt, whatever it was, but it started, and now he's fixated on the ground and fixated on chasing shadows, chasing light, chasing things that he thinks, and it becomes a neurotic behavior. And to me, that's a sad thing. So why do we train a dog? There's another good question for you. Why do we do dog training, right? Most people come to dog trainers when they have a problem, and that's not when you want to do it. You want to mold and shape that clay and give that dog a purpose and give him a job, which alleviates 90% of your problems, because now you're putting it someplace. You're putting all that energy into something, right? So the reason I'm talking about this is because Benzo is a classic case of this, right? It's a good dog, 18-month-old dog. So my goal when I take in a dog like this is not to train heel, sit down, stay. It's to fulfill the dog's psychological needs, to put that energy into places and do something with it. Give it a purpose. Give the dog a job, right? And by doing that, you alleviate 90% of your problems. And people don't realize that and understand that, right? So when a lot of people get a dog, they get a dog, and especially women, no offense, but it is true, they want to foo-foo something. They want to love something and sit there on the couch and pet it, right? Why do we do that? Why do we love our dogs, don't get me wrong. I do the same thing. My dog sleeps with me, hugs and cuddles with me all the time. But that is for us, right? We're not doing anything for the dog's development. We're not doing anything for the dog if we don't develop the dog in the way that I'm talking about, right? So the biggest reason that we train a dog that I can think of and point in your direction is that we train a dog to give him a life. Because now I can take that dog, like you're seeing me with Benzo. I'm taking that dog out, I'm going to the park, going to Tractor Supply. My goal is to give that dog enough functionality in his development so that we can start to have that dog go places with us and do things. Give the dog a life. You understand? Instead of just leaving the dog stuck home in the backyard, right? So that's why I have dogs, because I'm into functionality. I'm into finding a dog and giving him a purpose, right? And that for thousands of years is why we developed dogs and bred with genetics in a lot of these bloodlines and all the different dogs that we have available. Bird dogs and cattle dogs and herding dogs and all these things that were bred for a purpose, right? Give that dog a job. So now in our lifestyles now, we don't have any more purpose in our lives in regards to that. And we're not thinking about it because we don't need a dog to do a job for us anymore. So we're turning into society, into a situation where dogs are left home sitting in the backyard, and people don't realize, they see all the Wick movies and oh joy, cool, look at that, I want one. And they don't realize what that comes with, right? The management of that animal, it should have you in the mental attitude of taking that dog out and doing something with it, right? And then putting that dog and giving that dog a purpose so that you fulfill the dog's life and give them a life, right? So that's what you see with Benzo, right? I want you to keep watching Benzo and see all the development that I'm doing in regards to that, and think about it. Now that dog is going to be able to go places with the owner, as long as they don't just sit back on the couch and fall right back into their lifestyle. They're not doing anything with the animal. That dog is going to return real easy. Behaviors are like that, guys. When we have behaviors like that, shadow chasing or any of it, if you do the right thing to recondition the dog, but as soon as he goes back home, that brain is going to draw right back to the same old thing because of the draw of him remembering where he was at and all that. And that brain is going to want to go right back to those same behaviors. And I equate it to the vinyl record, because I remember vinyl records with that needle tracking on the music, and if I had a scratch in it, that needle would want to draw back to that same scratch. That is behavior. That scratch has been already written to the computer, and it wants to return to that same thing. So the customers, do a lot of work, and the dog may not be doing any of that with me anymore, but if the customers let the dog go in the backyard and don't pay attention and let the dog start doing that, he's riding back into that same old behavior. That needle's going to want to draw right back to that behavior, and it's going to repeat and be right there and nothing flat, because the groove's already been written to the record, right? The scratch is already there. And so when we counter condition, we're polishing that out, we're counter conditioning that behavior, and we're getting away from it. But that dog is going to want to draw right back. It's the way the brain works. Our brains are very similar in regards to that. Maybe we have different drives and different instincts and things like that, but the brain is very much the same with all animals on God's green earth. That's why learning theory works with all animals on God's. I can click treat a friggin' goldfish, okay? So the wiring and how the brain works is very similar. When you talk about somebody like Andrew Huberman talking about how the brain works and getting into all these subjects in regards to the human brain, is very similar to the animal brain. And it is what it is, but that gives us the ability to condition an animal and do what we need to. It's because of the similarities in it. When you start getting into learning theory, okay, how all animals learn on God's green earth, and us included, you talk about myelin, how that behavior is written to the computer, and then you repeat it, keep practicing, keep doing it, and that's how we get behaviors to work the way we do, right? So why do we have dogs? Why do we do what we do? And there's a lot of reasons that humans get dogs, but a lot of times humans will get a dog that they think is going to fulfill that psychological need of them, right? So my world is understanding that and knowing that I want to make sure I fulfill the dog's psychological needs and give him a life. And that's why you hear me talking a lot more about the dog, the mental process of what I go through when I build these dogs and put the work into it. It's not about the behaviors. It's about where's the dog's head at in those behaviors, and where can I put that energy and get it to work for me, right? That's what fulfills my need, but more importantly, fulfills the dog's psychological needs, right? So, all right, keep it in mind. It's enough of my yak session. You guys have a good day, and I will talk to you the next time. Thank you much.